He writes about the solipsistic inner core of the hollowed out body that the artist opiate addict inhabits. This simultaneous rock bottom purgatory combined with this really odd aggressive hubris. Better than food, man. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. I have no more furniture. This is a camping chair. This is the moving process. It is what it is. No coffee for me, man. I am totally wild. In Thirst for Annihilation, the English philosopher Nick Land's phenomenal book on George Bataille, there's a line, I think near the beginning, wherein he describes the floor as also being a wall. As in, you can hit rock bottom, but you can also punch through to the other side. And I'm going off of memory for these two anecdotes, so somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Bataille also himself says something about he who transgresses. I don't know which piece it's from, but it's where he's talking about crime. He's saying that the individual who has committed the crime, not only does he break the rules of the group, right? But he also knows something that the others don't. And that was a very powerful idea to me. Both of those were. So please keep those anecdotes in mind for today's review of Communions by Adam Lehrer, published last year in 2021 by Hyperidion Press. Adam Lehrer is an author, artist, and podcaster who is based out of New York City. He runs the podcast and Substack Safety Propaganda, and he's just slightly older than myself. And he is almost single-handedly giving me hope in the survival of decent literature in the modern era, as he's inspired by writers such as J.G. Ballard, William S. Burroughs, and Norman Mailer. Today's video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. Is your old piece of warped cattle skin in your back pocket becoming a pain in the ass? Well, my friend, look no further. These things are awesome. They are light, sleek, industrial, holds up to 12 cards plus room for cash on the back. This one comes with a cash clip, which is pretty rad. They also come with a strap, and you can change them out if you like. This is the Stonewashed Titanium model. Of course, if you prefer something else, they come in over 30 colors and styles. The durable material means that each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. You can buy this one wallet and carry it for life. In fact, the Ridge team is so confident you'll like it, they'll let you test drive it for 45 days. You can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. They also come with RFID blocking technology to protect you and your wallet from digital pickpockets. Can't be too careful these days, those fuckers. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping returns by going to ridge.com/betterthanfood and using the discount code betterthanfood. The link is below. Thank you so much. There is something that today's author Adam Lehrer knows that bonds him with junkies he admires or was artistically influenced by, because he himself for quite a period of time was a junkie. By junkie I mean somebody who was addicted to opiates, and specifically in this case heroin. So this book is a very interesting concept. Communions is a collection of Adam's communions with dead artists who were addicted to opiates, usually heroin, ranging from Modigliani to Darby Crash to Dirt McGirt, aka ODB, aka Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan, to Jean-Michel Basquiat to Antonin Artaud. It's fictionalized vignettes from the lives of real artists, all of them sharing one major thing in common: their love, or you could call it enslavement, to opiates, to junk, to heroin, smack, whatever you want to call it. He's inhabiting the bodies of these characters, these artists, and reconstructing scenes of their lives. It's fun, in a way, as kind of a creative exercise, right? It's a novel idea, because if you're into his music and art taste, basically you're gonna recognize everybody, and it's gonna be just like, oh, cool, there's a John Lurie cameo, you know? And it's enjoyable to see what he does with all of them, which moments he chooses to reconstruct, right? And you know, I got a whiff of this thing a while back, and I was like, oh, the concept sounds cool, could be good. Could be, I was a little worried. I hadn't read anything by Adam. I didn't know that he was an art critic. I hadn't come in contact with his work, and I asked him for a copy, and I was so grateful that I started reading the book, and I was like, oh my God, he can actually write. This is wonderful. Because you so badly want something with a concept this good to be quality writing, to have that kind of sensibility and maturity that the project demands, and it does. And I was like, oh, yes. And I can tell you exactly when it hit me. In the first chapter, when the contemporary artist Dash Snow Odes to Orphans by Lydia Lunch's Teenage Jesus and the Jerks. That was it. It's just one of those things, right? I mean, it's like, if you know, you know. If you grew up with like No Wave and fucking punk rock and Larry Clark shit and like, 90s, like, right? 80s, early 80s, Lower East Side, 90s, these things, LA punk, the surrealists, all this shit. This is all my territory, right? This is all of the things that really shaped me or scarred me, traumatized me, whatever you want to call it. If you feel it, you feel it. So I'm absolutely biased. I'm totally biased. That being said, I've never done heroin. You don't need to appreciate these things. So aside from, of course, all of Adam's influences, I really appreciate the writing of the book and how he tried to write in the voice of each character for each chapter, each vignette, and really make them distinct from one another. I also appreciated how he did not follow the same form for each chapter. Each story demands its own form, and in some cases it's not even a story at all. For example, there's one on Philip Seymour Hoffman, but it's actually a letter from Adam to him, after Hoffman, of course, has died from an overdose. It's very moving. Another thing I love about the book is how it portrays what the drug was to the various characters. For Zoe Lund, the actress who is one of the vignettes, who is an actress associated with Abel Ferrara, who directed a brilliant vampire story as metaphor for drug addiction film called The Addiction in the mid-90s, which was excellent. Mixes in nihilistic philosophy, East Coast 90s hip-hop. It's fabulous. It's one of my favorite films. It's flawed, but all the great things are. I've linked the trailer in the description below. Check it out. She was also the star of his film Mrs. 45, which I haven't seen, unfortunately. I need to watch that. For her, it was, in her mind, it was what made her an artist. Heroin, that is. For Antonin Artaud, that's a really great one. That's a nice vignette from the point of view of this guy who has to constantly score for Artaud. For Artaud, it was a necessary remedy to mitigate having one foot in the world of the living and one foot in the world of the dead or the damned or hell or whatever you want to call it. The world of death and demons. Artaud at that point was older and had been subjected to a lot of electroshock therapy. For Darby Crash, drowning in his shame of being gay, it was a fatalistic method of suicide and a gigantic fuck you, which was just sort of a continuation of, what he represented and stood for with his work with the Germs, this very, very famous LA punk band, great band, but very sloppy, really dirty, really violent, really aggressive. That's one of the best pieces in my opinion, the Darby Crash one. It's just called Crash, and this is how it starts. I'll read it to you. I really enjoyed this. All of these are very, very dark, but they're very creative. The one with Charlie Parker and John Coltrane arguing in a jazz club in purgatory for eternity was excellent. This is from chapter 9 called Crash, which is about Darby. I'm incapacitated now, slipping into the abyss. My mind, its architecture is eroding. I'm disintegrating. Why did I make this decision to close the loop on my 5-year plan? You'll never know. You'll speculate. You'll rationalize and theorize Darby Crash's suicide, but that's it. Because I'm a legend. And I'm a legend because I'm dead. It's dark stuff. It's terrific. There's one on the writer Anna Kavan and her doctor who is giving her smack and falling in love with her, basically. And a scene in a shitty jazz club in purgatory with Charlie Parker and John Coltrane having an argument that repeats for eternity. That's one of the best because you have this dialogue between these two jazz titans, one of whom stayed on smack, that would be Parker, and the other who got off it, which would be Coltrane. So that presents this idea of, just how much of the art produced is tied in with the drug. How much does the drug foster the art or the ability of the artist to produce it, right? It's a disturbing question. There doesn't seem to be a definitive answer. It's more like, it depends, right? It seems like person to person in context, but that's disturbing, right? Because that means that, the drug actually did allow for people to generate the art that they did. And if they did not have said drug, they may not have done it. That's a disturbing question. because the cost of being on that drug, the cost of making that art is so heavy. It's your fucking life and possibly the lives of your family and others around you, right? So there's also a tragic personal letter to Philip Seymour Hoffman and an epilogue wherein Adam documents his own downfall, recovery, then second downfall, his relapse, followed by another recovery over the course of his 20s. So I'm definitely, it's obvious, like I'm his target audience. This book is not for everybody, of course. And, but if you are into gritty New York heroin lore, or just the lore of artists or musicians of the early 80s, late 70s, Lower East Side, any of that shit is, this is your jam, basically. I just grew up with an affinity for a lot of the same art that Adam appreciates. Most often this takes the form of music. New York no wave, black metal, 90s East Coast hip hop, punk, techno, but it travels into other mediums as well. It's funny, Adam made a post about the file sharing program SoulSeek, which I used to use back in the day when I was a teenager and I was into black metal, and all these black metal guys get on SoulSeek and they have all these obscure black metal albums that they trade with each other. And I remember that was a thing back when I was a teenager, and he made some posts on Instagram about that, and so I jumped back on there and I was like, oh shit, it's still around, that's cool. And I typed in the name of my fucking black metal band and I actually found my band's album, which I do not have. I do not have a hard copy of it. So I downloaded it, and then the best part of it was like the guy who I downloaded it from, who was hosting the files, sent me that like boilerplate message, like saying like, you're not sharing anything, so share some music or risk getting banned, right? And I wanted to type back like, this is my band, motherfucker. Oh man, yeah, the band I drummed for back in the day, Depths of Tartarus. I was just the drummer, but yeah, it's there. Burning Black Earth, yeah, I think this one was my favorite. Let's see. Anyways, music, as in music taste, is something we can bond and communicate over very quickly. Artistic taste in general, just like literary taste. It's a drug, I've decided. Music, that is. Music is a drug. And many of us probably can't live without it now that we've had it. As a culture, we also bond through drug use, whether it's coffee, alcohol, cigarettes. Great for bonding, by the way. Shame it fucking murders you. And opiates, of course, specifically heroin. Heroin use, although private and obviously catastrophically destructive, is a very particular experience that bonds people. Adam knows this intimately. So, this is a really positive way of channeling a really horrifically dark experience and period of one's life into something transcendent. Of using your mistakes, which if it were me, I would, that's what I would view it as, to achieve something greater, to mitigate the damage in some ways, using what you know. I mean, that's about the best anybody could hope for going through what he has. So using this intimate knowledge of addiction and having overcome it however much it's possible, and he does discuss that, in the book, that it never quite, the desire never quite leaves you, right? I'm sure it's similar with former nicotine addicts. Adam channels the ghosts of artists he loves, with each of them fictionally representing the fate that he himself successfully, and it's probably not a stretch to say narrowly, avoided. Basically, Adam's gone to hell and back and brought us back some information that allows us to, in some way, understand the troubled souls we've lost. Not to sound too lofty, but it is, in its own way, though of course perverse and voyeuristic, a fucking beautiful idea. Nina Power also contributes a powerful postface to the book, discussing the de-ritualization of substances and illustrating the nature of drug use in its relation to art. Full disclaimer, Nina is a patron of the show, and I am going to be reviewing her book, What Do Men Want, pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it. Lehrer has developed a persona, and I think he admits it's a kind of persona, that prioritizes, above all it seems, a kind of confrontational, sincere honesty. It's dedicated to spitting the truth no matter how unpopular it is. It's very East Coast, very New York. It seems like this, in part, comes from his appreciation for the rock critic Lester Bangs, whom Lehrer read at a young age, and whom I've never read, even though, oddly enough, I've been compared to him, though of course I don't think I'm anywhere near as gifted. But I've never read Psychotic Reactions in Carburetor Dung. I know, I'll get to it. It was also a favorite of Bourdain's, just some trivia. But people with good taste. Bourdain had good taste, Adam has good taste. These guys have great taste. If you're looking to improve your taste, read either of these people, you know? But there's more to it than just that, of course. He writes what he knows, what he has known. He writes about the solipsistic inner core of the hollowed out body that the artist opiate addict inhabits. This simultaneous rock bottom purgatory combined with this really odd aggressive hubris. This kind of fuck you, I can do anything mentality. And that's, if there's one through line that kind of connects all the characters who have, you know, in the vignettes with a narrative component, there is always that kind of attitude that follows through with the heroin addict. It's this kind of like, fuck you all, I know what I'm doing. That just gets heightened as they succumb, you know, as they fall deeper into this pit, basically. I'm thinking particularly of the stories of Charlie Parker, Darby Crash, and Basquiat. But I think it's probably everybody who has a story in there. Adam has projected his own inner psyche into the stories of these artists he loves and respects. It's opiate-themed cathartic ventriloquism as literature. The thing is, I grew up with Kurt Cobain and William S. Burroughs and Trainspotting 2. Everybody knows heroin kills you, right? The problem is that it fucking kills you, and before that, it hollows out everything good about your life and enslaves you. I wasn't a smart kid. Under the right circumstances, I absolutely could have fallen into those circles, right? By something that's probably closer to sheer luck than I'd like to admit, I avoided it. Other friends of mine were not so lucky. One kid I knew from high school OD'd this year. He'd had a full ride cross-country scholarship to Columbia, an Ivy League school, 4.0 GPA, shit like that. Was, you know, dating the hot girls at school. And then apparently somewhere along the line, you know, I didn't keep in touch with him, we weren't friends. Yeah, somewhere along the line he found meth, had some schizophrenic episodes it sounds like, and then indeed found the opiates as well. And the toxicology report was just a grocery list basically, and fentanyl was in there as well. They found him in a San Luis Obispo motel room. But when I got the news on that one from my other friend, I just almost fell out of my seat. You just never know about some people and what they're going through, or like what happens to them. I mean, they can look like, you know, this guy did, and then just, God, don't do heroin, don't do drugs, really just don't do drugs. And that's also the thing, there's a fucking epidemic out there on a grand scale right now, and you know, I guess he's part of that. It's killing small town rural communities, quite literally, quite literally, they're dying. Like everybody's getting killed by opiates. That's what's been going on in these communities, you know? Blue collar job, you get a back injury, they give you Oxycontin, you take more of it, suddenly you're on fentanyl. And there's actually an interesting thing that Adam has mentioned. You can't even do like the old, like if you wanted to be a heroin addict, you know, in the romantic, poetic, whatever fucking way from like way back when, you can't even do that now. Because all the shit that's out there right now is fentanyl. You're gonna die. You're gonna die, basically. It's like, you're gonna die. Don't do heroin. Don't do fentanyl. Don't do any of it. It's never been more obvious. Like, and it's so pervasive. It's like all around you. Like I'm sure where I'm at right now, like there are so many people around here who are just like kind of like casually addicted to smack. The numbers just kind of prove it. So it's disturbing as hell. So for all of that, the book does, in a way, present a neutral opinion on opiate use. It's neither advocating nor shaming. What it does is demonstrate the inseparability of these artists and their art with this particular drug. And that raises all kinds of difficult questions, right? I mean, it makes for good stories. It is true. It does make for good stories, but they're always violent. They're always completely grimy and gritty and depraved, and just everybody's disintegrating, right? But they're exploding while doing so, and it's kind of in its own way glorious, because the barriers that hold one back, which are the ones that provide a kind of, what would you call it, instincts of self-preservation, those barriers are obliterated. So what can happen, right? But of course we know where all this ends. It ends in pain and misery and death, obviously, but the art, right? So it's complicated. Overall though, even though their art might be amazing And even if heroin allowed them to create that art, in my opinion, their stories and Adam's quite clearly demonstrate that it is not in any way, shape, or form worth it. At all, obviously. No way in hell. You're an absolute deplorable slave to a chemical. I mean, coffee is bad enough. So if there was any question, right? Just in case you wanted my explicit conviction and advice, kids, don't do heroin. It's an awesome book. Better Than Food. I thought it was fantastic. The story featuring Jean-Michel Basquiat is kind of a raunchier version of the film Downtown 81, which is a great film. Great film by, I think that was Glenn O'Brien who did that actually, who then got into, of now GQ fame. They lost all the original audio, so they had to redub it. It's weird, but it had like, you know, it had Debbie Harry and like, was Vincent Gallo in that movie? He might have been. DNA, Vincent Gallo is in the book, Tuxedo Moon. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I love the ending to that film. I saw it in the theater once. I saw it in the theater once in Portland years ago. And the ending's great where he's just driving in this car through New York. Man, God, what a fucking era. Basquiat also seemed way more cold and cruel than he comes across in interviews. But that's compelling because I'm sure Adam knows much more about him than I. Yeah, that's curious. He didn't seem like a particularly cruel guy, but actually, you know, apparently that might not have been the case. But Adam's epilogue is just as good, if not better, than the other stories, you know? The failures and ecstasies and moments of terror, the near-death overdose, the anecdote where he wakes up with blood on his hands, not knowing if it's his or this cab driver's. That's intense, you know? Those are great stories. I mean, stories of drug addiction, rock bottom, and rehab and recovery are a dime a dozen. I mean, you know, it's so cliche. So for Adam to kind of take this whole experience and actually make it fresh and, infuse his own artistic sensibility and taste into this series of stories and this whole project is really inspiring. I think it's a great sign of things to come from him, and also just the possibilities of what's available to us as writers or artists today. You know, you can still do some really cool shit. It's a good sign to me. It's a good sign. I can't wait to see what he does down the road, but you know, if this was it, that's enough. He doesn't need to prove anything. Better Than Food. So you should read it. Well, anyone who's like, damn, I'm bored as hell, I really need some new music / film / literature / philosophy recommendations. This thing is a gateway drug, to a lifetime of great art. You have the holy grail of artistic references right here. So buy this guy's book, make him rich, support great art. You can find it in the description box below, the link on Amazon, or to Hyperidion Press itself. Coffee time. For those of you who are new, thank you so much for stopping by. I take the names of all the patrons on Patreon who have donated $5 or more per video to the show. I place their names in this mason jar, and whoever's name I pull out, I send them a hard copy of the book I'm reviewing, plus a bag of coffee, roasted by yours truly. If you would like to get in on that and help support my relocation, I'd sincerely appreciate it because gas is almost $6 a gallon, and this is my full-time job, apparently. So, and if you'd like to get in on that, you can head to the description below and click on the link, or go to patreon.com/books are better than food. Other than the coffee jar, there's several other things you get if you sign up for Patreon, and you can find that information in the description box below. Thanks a bunch. Unfortunately, international shipping is not included. So thank you very much to all the patrons, and best of luck. Okay, here we go. Madeline C. Thank you very much, Madeline. I really appreciate it. You're going to receive Communions by Adam Lehrer, plus some delicious coffee. And I hope you love both. Cheers. Please subscribe if you have not already, and hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and always remember, die reading. All right, take care of yourselves, have a great night, talk to you soon. Ciao.